This video provides information about the fiscal year 2022 Semiquin Centennial Grant Program, administered by the State, Tribal, Local Plans and Grants Division of the National Park Service. In 2026, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Congress has appropriated $10 million for a competitive grant program to honor the semi-quincentennial anniversary of the United States by restoring and preserving state-owned sites and structures listed on the National Register of Historic Places that commemorate the founding of the nation. The National Park Service is now accepting applications for the fiscal year 2022 round of the Semi-Quincentennial Grant Program. You can find more information and apply via grants.gov under funding opportunity number P22AS00403. The application deadline is December 6th, 2022. To be eligible for this program, resources must be owned by a state government. That means properties that are owned by local governments, nonprofits, and private entities are not eligible in this round. Resources must also be listed in the National Register of Historic Places at the time of application. These properties could be individually listed, identified as contributing to a listed historic district, or designated as a National Historic Landmark individually or as part of a National Historic Landmark district. Resources eligible for funding could be buildings, sites, structures, objects, or districts. They could be places that are interpreted as publicly accessible historic sites or museums or state parks, or used for other purposes such as offices or official government functions. But all eligible resources must be associated with or commemorate the founding of the nation. So what does founding of the nation mean? Well, for purposes of the semi-quincentennial program, the founding period is defined as concluding on December 31st, 1800. There is no start date to the founding period, however. 1800 was chosen because the election of that year between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson marked the first peaceful transfer of power in a contested election, something that would become a hallmark of American democracy. Resources must have a demonstrable connection to or commemorate the people, events, conflicts, or ideas significant to the period prior to December 31st, 1800. These resources may include those that are related to the pre-contact period, Native American cultures, or exploration and colonization beyond the eastern seaboard. Commemorative properties could include monuments, memorials, or places that interpret a resource's connection to the people, places, and events of the founding period. Such connection must be discussed in the application narrative. There are two types of eligible projects in this program: pre-preservation and preservation. Pre-preservation activities include the development of resource-specific architectural plans and specifications, historic structures reports, studies, or related surveys. Archaeological and architectural surveys that seek to simply identify sites associated with this period, i.e. reconnaissance surveys, are not eligible. That means that all pre-preservation projects need to be associated with a specific building or resource that will be the subject of that report. Applications for pre-preservation projects should not include any construction or bricks and mortar work. And amendments or updates to National Register or National Historic Landmark documentation for the resource are eligible as grant-supported activities. Grants for pre-preservation projects will range from $15,000 to $75,000 federal share. Non-federal match is not required, but may be a competitive selection factor. And up to 25% of the grant award may be used for grant administration costs. The other category of eligible projects are preservation projects, or bricks and mortar and physical construction. Up to 20% of preservation grants may be used for pre-preservation work, including materials analyses, historic structures reports, surveys, and drawings and specifications. Preservation work on non-built resources like archaeological sites and landscapes could include site stabilization, landscape restoration, or drainage improvements as examples. Preservation grants will range from $75,000 to $750,000 federal share. Non-federal match is not required for preservation grants, but may be a competitive selection factor. And up to 25% of preservation grant awards may be used for grant administration costs. So what types of projects are not eligible? Archaeological investigation not related to physical preservation work. Reconnaissance surveys that seek to simply identify the location or existence of sites related to the founding period. Reconstruction of resources that are wholly or mostly gone. Any type of new construction. The acquisition of property. Collections. And any work that has been completed prior to the execution of a grant agreement. Eligible applicants include state or territorial governments, or local governments, tribes, or nonprofits who partner with states or territories through leases, management agreements, or fundraising arrangements for the state or territorially owned property. Again, all resources must be owned by a state government, meaning that the state holds the deed to the property. But partners who lease or maintain properties on behalf of the state or raise funds to support the properties may apply. These non-state applicants must provide a letter of support or authorization from the responsible state agency along with the application, however. So just to recap, grant amounts for pre-preservation projects will range from $15,000 to $75,000. Preservation grants will be from $75,000 to $750,000, and non-federal match is not required for any grants under this program. Awards are anticipated to be announced in spring of 2023 with a planned start date of summer 2023. The requirement of all grants is that the work must meet the Secretary of the Interior standards for archaeology and historic preservation and comply with Sections 106 and Section 110 of the National Historic Preservation Act, as well as NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act. Preservation grants require the execution of a preservation agreement between the National Park Service and the state entity. And all grantees must go through competitive selection and National Park Service approval of consultants and contractors working on the project. Applications will be evaluated using 4 criteria: significance, need, urgency, and threat, project feasibility, and project sustainability. Please refer to the Notice of Funding Opportunity for more specific direction on how to address each of these criteria in your response. Every application must include all of the items listed in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. Incomplete applications will not be considered. The required application materials include the SF424 series, which includes the application for federal assistance, the budget information for non-construction programs, which must be submitted along with the SF424C if your project includes construction. All applications must include both of those for construction projects. The SF424B is assurances for non-construction programs, and the SF424D is the assurance for construction programs. In addition, the standard form LLL, disclosure of lobbying activity for awards over $100,000, must be included. There's a list of attachments, a project abstract summary form, the project description worksheet, which is where you will address the criteria identified previously, the budget justification worksheet, project images, an indirect cost statement, and letters of support or owner consent as applicable. The Semiquin Centennial Grant Program is funded by the Federal Historic Preservation Fund, which was established by Congress in 1976 to provide grants to the 50 states, District of Columbia, 5 territories, and freely associated states of Micronesia, in addition to more than 200 tribes and more than 2,000 local governments and hundreds of nonprofits annually. The Historic Preservation Fund receives its funding from oil and gas lease revenue, not tax dollars. And just as a reminder, all applications must be submitted through grants.gov using funding opportunity number P22AS00403 by the deadline of December 6th, 2022. You can find further information about the Semiquin Centennial Program on our website at go.nps.gov/Semiquin. And all questions can be sent to our main email box at stlpg@nps.gov.